Good evening. We'd like to call to order the Monday, October 20th, 2025 meeting of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mrs. Denny?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. McCree?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 yes, 0 no.
Please stand for the postings of the colors by the JROTC.
Mark time, march. Color guard, halt. Left, face. Ma'am, permission to post colors. Post colors. Post. Present arms. Order, arms. Right, face. Mark time, march. Forward, march.
Special thanks to our JROTC for being present. This evening, we have a communication piece from our summer educational experience in France, presented by Mrs. Jamie Pearsall and her students.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to present my students. This is La Rochelle Tavares. This is Reese Baines. And behind me is Maddie Taylor. So they're going to tell you what we did when we were in France.
Bonjour. We're French 5 students currently, but last year we were French 4 students, and French 4 and French 5, we went to Paris.
We took a bus to Newark and then a plane to Paris. And the first day we took a bus tour around the city and we stopped at Notre Dame for lunch.
Our second day after we settled into the hotel, we got on a not the metro, but a train to this town called Chartres, and we visited their church, Notre Dame of Chartres, and we got a tour of it, and then we were able to explore the town and have lunch there and visit different stores.
The third day we took another train to Versailles, and we saw the palace and the gardens there. We walked around there and we listened to a little tour, a audio guide, while we toured around and looked at all the artwork, and then we took a little walk around the gardens, and then later that day we saw the Eiffel Tower at night and we got to see it sparkle.
The next day we went to the Louvre. We got to see all the little stores in there, and we walked around. We saw the Mona Lisa and all sorts of different artwork in there. And then later we got to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower.
The next day we toured the Saint Chapelle. It was a cathedral, and then We did some shopping at the Galerie Lafayette. It's like this very big like shopping center there, and we visited the Palace Garnier, which is like an opera house there in Paris.
And the sixth day, we went to the outside of the Louvre. We saw the pyramid, and then we went to the Musée de l'Orangerie, the museum, and we got to see a bunch of artwork there. And then later that day, we walked to the Champs-Élysées and saw the Arc de Triomphe, and we climbed to the top of that as well.
The next day we went to the Sacred Heart. What is that? There's another cathedral. We were in the town of Montmartre. We got caricatures. They're on there. They look pretty funny. There was a lot of also just fun art in the town that we got to see. And then later that day we went to the Musée d'Orsay, and there was a lot of really nice art that we got to. It was really cool that we got to see it because we studied it in class for a while. So it was really cool to get to see like all the things that we had been talking about.
Overall, I know we all really enjoyed it, and we were really prepared. Like, we do activities in class where we practice like going to a restaurant and ordering food or like asking for directions, so we knew how to do all that. And most of the time, like, as the locals knew that we like wanted to like practice our French, so they spoke back to us in French, and everybody was really kind. We got to experience like all the French culture like that we learned about in school, and all the French food, so it was really fun and educational. Yeah.
That's all. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Schneider?
Yeah, as someone who received hourly updates in picture form of what was going on, my jealousy level just grew exponentially over the course of that week. It seemed like everybody had such a great time, and I was just so happy that you guys were able to do that.
Any other comments from the board? Mrs. Denny?
Madame, merci à vous et vos élèves de venir ici ce soir de nous parler de votre voyage en France. Cela semble incroyable, surtout de visiter Notre-Dame après la rénovation. Moi, la première fois que j'ai visité la France, c'était ici à Wilson, sur un voyage scolaire. Et j'ai étudié aussi à l'université en France. Et j'ai eu la chance de voyager plusieurs fois, mais je me souviens encore très bien de mon voyage ici à Wilson. C'était avec Madame Fischer? Pardon? C'était avec Madame Fischer? Oui, avec Madame Fischer et Mademoiselle Williams, oui. So thank you so much for coming here to talk with your students about your trip. The first time I went to France was with a Wilson trip, just like you students. And I studied there as well in college, and I've been back many times, but I still remember very, very fondly my time there with Wilson. In fact, my friends and I, we still talk about it because it was that influential in our lives. And I am, besides a huge Francophile, I am just a big advocate for foreign language study in our schools, which everybody knows because we had the Spanish trip here already. And I won't repeat what I talked to them about because I talked with them about all the opportunities for careers when you speak multiple languages. But what I want to talk about tonight is how important languages are, even for the students that never take it again, that may take 1 year or 2 years and then never speak it again. And I want to say for the three of you, I hope you continue to speak languages. I hope you take it in college. I hope you make a career out of it or use it in some way. But the United States is so far behind other countries in terms of our languages. And one of the greatest benefits for any student in learning a foreign language is that it gives them a better understanding of the English language. You know, when you speak something intuitively, when you're raised in it, you don't always understand why it is the way it is. And Wilson started languages when I was in school in 7th grade, which was also the same year we did diagramming of sentences, which was a tedious and painful exercise that I hope we no longer do. And for whatever reason, I could not get the difference between an adverb and an adjective. I could use them correctly, I could parrot what the definition of them was, but I would always get it wrong when I was trying to diagram my sentences. But as you students know, when you're trying to figure it out in French, the difference between an adverb and an adjective is very important. An adverb doesn't change, but an adjective has to match not just singular and plural like in English, but it also has to match masculine and feminine. And so the repetition of doing this, learning this in English, and then learning this in French, and then later in Spanish, helped it in my mind. And it wasn't like all of a sudden there was this light bulb moment, but it was just the repetition helped me understand the English language better. And this is true for things like you talk about infinitives and future tense and past tense, and all of that makes more sense when you have to apply it to a foreign language. The second reason I think languages are so important is that there will inevitably be something you will learn when you're learning about a foreign culture that you would have never learned in any other aspect of your educational career. For me, that's art. I can't draw stick figures. So for me, all through elementary and middle school, I hated art class. And so I assumed that meant I hated art. But a huge part, and I'm sure this is true for your classes, Madame, that a huge part of my French and Spanish classes was learning about French artists. You know, Degas, Monet, Renoir. I saw you were at the Musée d'Orsay. And in experiencing that, which I would have never experienced and never did, even in college. I went to a liberal arts college, never did anything like that. I realized all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I really love art, and I really love Impressionist art. I've been to the Musée d'Orsay about 6 times. I could probably go there 100 times before I die, and it would never be enough time to see all of the artwork in there because it is so amazing. And my very, very favorite French piece of art is The Coronation of Napoleon by David. And I saw you had the Death of Marat in there, and then in the gallery directly across from that is the Coronation of Napoleon. And we had seen that. Madame Fisher had shown us pictures and shown us pictures. I was like, oh, this is really neat. I can't wait to see it. And I was thinking it was going to be something like, you know, one of these pictures that you could hang in a wall. It is bigger than the wall back there. It was at that time the biggest work of art that I had ever seen in my life. And it was, I can still remember when I saw it because it was awe-inspiring to me that any human being could create a piece of art that takes up an entire wall in the detail and all of that. So for some people, for me it was art. For some people it could be food. For some people it could be literature. But that's the kind of thing that you may never in your life get exposed to, and all of a sudden it could be something that impacts your life for the rest of your life. And I guess the last thing I would say is that the reason I think experiencing other cultures is so important is because it makes you appreciate the culture that we have. You know, when you visit France, it seems very much like America, and they formed, I'm sure you studied the revolution there, and it was formed very much based on American ideals. And yet they're on their 5th republic, and we're still on our 1st constitution. So as wonderful as France is, going there and experiencing it made me realize how incredible, and I'm an attorney by trade, how incredible our Constitution is and what an incredible job our founding fathers did. And it's not just the big things like that, it's the little things. Like, did you try to get any kind of an iced drink while you were over there? Did they give you 2 little pieces of ice, you know, and be like, here you go? Well, I like my big iced drinks, right? So anytime I go overseas, I come back and I'm like, yes, I'm an American and I like my iced drinks. So going to other cultures makes you appreciate what they have, but it makes you appreciate what we have as well. And that's why I think that language education is so important in our schools. And I really wish that, not just at Wilson, but that at all schools we started it at a younger age. So merci encore une fois for coming here tonight, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Dr. Trickett?
I was just going to take a moment and thank our chaperones. You know, taking trips with students is very rewarding, but it also comes with time away from your own families and children. So I just want to thank both of our chaperones here, Ramon and Jamie, and all of our chaperones across the district for giving up time to be with our kids. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for sharing your experience. Okay. Next agenda item, Mr. Ravish, do you have any solicitor announcement?
No, I do not.
Oh, we do. So we do have a public participation on agenda items this evening. If you would like to have your introduction first.
Pursuant to the Sunshine Law, Robert's Rules, and Board Policy, the following are the rules of public participation. Individuals attending the meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible and respectful manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Public comment is not question and answer, but instead an opportunity to offer comments on matters that are or may come before the board. In particular, personnel or student matters may not be commented on, even if the employee, parent, or student is speaking because of confidentiality laws. As it relates to questions, the superintendent may assign an administrator, or he himself may directly speak to the speaker after the meeting to attempt to answer those questions. The board requests that comments be made directed as the board as a body, as it's the board that will need to vote on future matters. Clapping, calling out, and cheering is not permitted. Individuals should not approach the board tables. Individuals should make the comments from the speaker's lectern. Comments are 3 minutes, and I'll try to provide a 1-minute non-disruptive warning. Any persons making threats or violence may be cited by local police. The above expectations are outlined in Board Policy 903, which is on board docs on the district's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitch. So we have one agenda item this evening and one non-agenda, which will be at the end of the meeting. So for the agenda item, Lindsay, and the agenda item is PA budget impasse.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Lindsay Nans, and I'm a parent of a bulldog and an educational consultant. I appreciate this time to speak to you about the devastating layoffs in the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP. While originating in DC, the diminishment of OSEP can profoundly affect our district and the community. My goal is to summarize why OSEP is necessary and to request this board's proactive leadership and partnership with our students and families. OSEP's purpose isn't just to disseminate funds, it's to provide the essential federal oversight and guidance so families don't have to. For the parents of our students with disabilities, raising their child is already a complex full-time job. Asking them to become experts in federal compliance and monitor their own rights is an unfair and unacceptable burden. The common argument that OSEP is a costly bureaucracy is flawed. Eliminating this national legal clearinghouse forces 50 states to create 50 separate expensive entities for the same work, a costly duplication. Cutting OSEP doesn't save money, it merely shifts the federal financial burden from mandated services onto local taxpayers. Furthermore, losing OSEP eliminates a free federal legal resource, possibly forcing our district to spend taxpayer money on expensive private lawyers in complex cases. OSEP also funds essential parent training centers designed to keep families informed about their rights. We must remember OSEP's founding purpose. It exists to enforce the Civil Rights Guarantee, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Without this uniform federal standard, the promise of equal access to education becomes a geographic lottery, and the quality of special education would suffer immediately. Before IDEA and OSEP, states routinely excluded children with disabilities or provided segregated and substandard programs. States didn't act until federal civil rights enforcement required them to act. This tragic disparity was the norm, which is exactly why a bipartisan Congress created IDEA and OSEP to enforce it. To meet this challenge proactively, I request the following from our board. Confirmation that the district is actively monitoring this situation and determining how our programs will be affected. A public assurance statement that safeguarding programs for students with disabilities is a top district priority. A clear list of actions already taken or soon to be taken to ensure students continue to receive the free and appropriate public education they are legally entitled to, regardless of federal layoffs or budget cuts. A commitment that despite any lack of federal enforcement, the district will uphold all of its obligations under the law. I urge the board to be equally transparent about the PA state budget impasse. With state funding actively withheld and OSEP loss shifting federal burdens to states, the district faces a possible shortfall. Our community needs to know the plan to protect programs, especially those with legally mandated services. Too often, politics focuses on fighting against something. I urge this district leadership to serve as a model for neighboring districts and to boldly share your commitments for fighting for something, for the continued commitment to civil rights, for vast educational opportunities for all, and for the bright future of every child in this district. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for your comments. Dr. Schrickett, before we get into, would it be appropriate to have, so we have, the reason that's an agenda item this evening is because we do have a resolution on the agenda, kind of related to directly related to the PA budget and related to this topic. So would it be appropriate to have comments at that time? based on the voting item? Okay. So thank you for bringing that to the board's attention. We are definitely monitoring both Pennsylvania. I just saw another article, how Pennsylvania is in quite a tight situation compared to other states because we have a federal shutdown and we don't have a state budget. So not a really good situation. So thank you for bringing that to the board. And we will discuss as a topic when we get to that agenda item. Okay, that takes us to executive session. The board did meet in executive session this evening to discuss property discussions, property conversations. Taking to approval of minutes. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the school board meeting held on October 6th, 2025.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Denny?
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. This is a voice vote, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Committee reports. Student outreach, Ms. Heidi Ding.
So Wilson had a full past 2 weeks full of many events and accomplishments. So on October 15th, the district celebrated White Cane Day, which is dedicated to celebrating those with visual impairments. Many special events were held throughout the day to raise awareness for this special day, and students learned about Braille in their advisory period. Last Friday, Minithon held a Halloween movie night where attendees got to sip hot chocolate and watch Transylvania in the Upper House gym. On Tuesday, Wilson Leo Club organized an American Red Cross blood drive where students and staff gave back to the community by donating blood. Last week, senior fall sports athletes had the opportunity to participate in Wilson's annual MVP, which allows students to celebrate an incredible Wilson staff member who positively impacted them. In athletics, congratulations to Wilson tennis player Jillian Chen and Brooke Mango on placing first in districts this weekend and getting a bid to states. Madison Uzar and Lucy Lamparella also placed third at tennis districts. The Wilson tennis team was also named the 2025 BCIAA champions for the first time in 13 years, as well as congratulations to the girls volleyball team for earning the 2025 BCIAA champions title as well. Morgan Bidding will also be competing at the World Triathlon Championship in Australia soon. Wilson football had an exciting 56-0 win over Miscassie this past Friday and 42-7 win over Penn Manor the week before. The Bulldogs are now 8-1 as they prepare for a big game against Manheim Township this Friday. Wilson's homecoming week was a huge success. On Friday, high school students enjoyed the homecoming carnival, which featured games, activities, food, and more. That evening at the Pink Out game, representatives from various clubs and activities were recognized on the homecoming court. Congratulations to Madison McCrae and Will Rapley, who were crowned homecoming king and queen of 2025. The celebration continued the next day with the homecoming dance hosted by Wilson Student Government. Students filled the dance floor all night, making an unforgettable event. A special thanks gives to the administrators and school board for helping make the dance such a success. This Friday is the marching band's annual home competition, Sound Panorama, where several bands come out to compete and perform their shows. It is a great night of music for the community, and at the end of the night, the Wilson Marching Band were performing their entire show.
Thank you for your report. I don't know about everyone else, but I know October always feels really busy, and I think your report reflects that. So thank you for giving us all the details. Operations Committee, Mr. Case.
Yes, thank you. We had a meeting today at 4:30 in the room back there. First and foremost, some construction updates. We had an update on the construction projects for the high school Performing Arts Center. They have poured the sloped floor in the auditorium. It's moving along pretty well. We're still on target for the renewed date. There's going to be a base layer of asphalt going in early November before the January freeze. And that is about it for the performing arts. Southern Middle School, there will be a change order that will be on the next board agenda. It's non-material, about $7,000. There was an egress wall breaking ceremony last week, which was wonderful. All the students were outside, and all the teachers and staff. It was a great moment. You know, sledgehammers were swinging, and seemed like everybody had a really good time. Also with Southern Middle School, just the unclassified construction, it was great that that was baked into our contract. because it's been about a month and the ECI or the contractors have been hard at work hitting a lot of hard gray limestone. So lots of rock. Not necessarily putting the project back at all, but they have multiple machines. They're breaking tools. It's just a lot of patience with everyone at Southern because it is loud, and I know everyone's just been very patient. Hopefully we'll be beyond that soon. With regard to Lincoln Park, they began grubbing, and there was a little bit of back and forth between from the agreements and wording with the township and the district, that sort of delayed a little bit of the start, but there is a new schedule with an updated completion of mid-July 2027. So that shifted from about April to July. Still can get into the building before the beginning of the school year when it is all done. So, but the runway has shortened for any mishaps. And then with regard to the high school G-wing, there are some. So basically, the district's looking to put an RFP together, through the GIZA process, and ideally, we want to get proposals back and approved by the board before the end of the year with what we're going to be doing in the G-wing, because there will be potential increases come January. So if we can get that in line this year and get some orders in, we definitely could get some cost savings. So that's the update on construction. With regard to facilities, we had an update on the Wilson West electrical bill, with all the lighting projects. So we should get some updates on what those savings will be in the near future. There's also on the agenda tonight floor coverings for the gymnasium that everyone has probably seen, and then on the next agenda there'll be it's $13,000 is some items that are needed for the pool timing pads. The season's going to begin soon, so we decided to move forward with that and then do a ratified agenda item on the next board agenda. So we do want to move forward with that order. Just from a timely perspective, we weren't able to get it on the agenda tonight. And then with regard to some more facility stuff, there's the district wants to develop a better cadence for carpet replacement. So carpets go bad. We typically here in the district, they get dirty, and then once people scream, we replace things. So we want to, Dr. Trick and the leadership team want to develop a plan to try and figure out what is the proper cadence for replacing these before they get, to the point where they don't look great anymore. There are a lot of stories that were told about milk being spilled and juices and things like that that make carpets not so great, and I'll save all the details there. But and then from a technology perspective, additional doors and card access, that's on the agenda today, along with some camera relocations for the construction at Southern. So with hallways moving, some cameras need to be adjusted. And then just from a security perspective, with the door access, there's a few areas within the district that have been seen that require a little bit more security, with vestibules or with the bus location, garages, et cetera. We want to kind of make sure that people, the proper individuals, are where they should be and nobody else. We did go through a custodian checklist that Zach, who one of our lead custodian, he is putting together for the night staff custodian checklist so we can have cleaner facilities throughout, and basically understand if things were cleaned properly, et cetera. So that is a process that's going in. And that is my report. Nothing else to report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Human Resources, Mrs. Casper.
Yes, thank you, President Cocker. Human Resources Committee met on October 8th. We discussed and reviewed the PA Career Link, Berks County. This is a free service allowing the district to post various support staff positions for potential candidates. We will also be reviewing board policies in the next several meetings for potential updates to our existing policies. Therefore, you will see revised policies on future agendas. In addition, we discussed the need to increase kindergarten aid hours in some of our classrooms to provide additional support for students and for teachers. As you can imagine, this is a very pivotal time for our earliest learners, so you will be voting to approve the increase later in today's meeting. You will also notice in the Human Resources section of our agenda tonight that we are recommending 2 candidates to fill our vacancies as a result of changes of status for Dawn Hart and Scott Fairchild. Abraham Moore has been selected as the next Spring Ridge Elementary principal, and Joshua Burkhart will be replacing Scott Fairchild as an assistant principal at the high school. I would like to be the first to welcome Abraham and Joshua to our Wilson team. That's my report. Our next meeting is in November 12th, sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to announce that the Wilson High School Junior ROTC will be hosting the 23rd Annual Berks County Veterans Appreciation Dinner Dance in the Wilson High School Gymnasium on Saturday, November 8th. For those of you who've been to that event, you know it's just an amazing night. The tickets can be purchased in the high school office during the school day at any Berks County Boscov's department store or at the door the day of the event. We are looking forward to the opportunity to honor our veterans at this wonderful community event. We also would like to publicly thank the Medicine Shop for hosting a voluntary flu shot clinic for our staff and their families on Friday, November 14th in our lower house cafeteria from 3 to 6 p.m. Sign-ups have been promoted on district social media and in the Bulldog Blitz, and there are still appointment slots available. The Medicine Shop is a great community partner that continues to host well-run clinics for our staff and the community. I believe this is our 3rd year in a row working with them, so we thank them. And then finally, I wanted to share a really fun highlight from our communications this past month. Our post announcing the Wilson High School Homecoming King and Queen is officially our best performing Facebook post of all time. It reached thousands of people and generated an incredible amount of positive engagement from our community, and it's a great example of how our social media continues to build pride and connection across the district. It by far blew away any of our other posts, so very super proud moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman. Any additional board member appointment reports? No? Okay. Mr. Ravitch, do you have your own report?
I do not.
Okay. That takes us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Trickett.
Thank you. Tonight on the report, I just want to take a moment to thank our retirees and those who are resigning or ending their service with the Wilson School District for all their contributions throughout the years. Also like to call attention to item 4.4, some of our support staff teammates and some new assignments and changed positions. And 4.5, welcoming Olivia Demore and Rebecca Rowland joining our team as professional hires, servicing our different schools, Woodfield and Green Valley, respectively, and as well as our extracurricular team on there. We have a couple additional coaches, as well as some volunteers. And just thank you again for all that you do during and outside of the school day to positively impact our kids. That is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Looking for a motion to approve superintendent's report, items 4.1 through 4.7 is presented.
Denny?
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under ratification approval of following field trips, looking for a motion to approve the following field trips as presented. Request for June 2026, a 2-week summer travel abroad course offering high school students the opportunity to learn English, bless you, English literature in England to earn 1 full English course credit. So we've had a presentation for a trip from Spain, France, and now England. Rounded out. All students have the opportunity to acquire a 0.5 credit for the trip at no additional cost. And the projected cost to participants, which could vary depending on other groups that we partner with, is about $4,000 per person, including flights, tours, and 2 meals per day. Also, a field trip request for 100 11th and 12th grade English students to visit the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville on October 27th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. to screen The Sixth Sense, which has a connection for the connection is to feel the film's emotional impact in a way that modern complexes may not replicate. A little sad that it's not a modern movie because I feel like The Sixth Sense just came out, but that's going to age myself, I guess. And the cost is $12 per student. The cost of the district is $730, which is taken from the high school English department budget, as well as 2 substitute teachers and school bus transportation. So looking for a motion to approve the 2 field trips. Mr. McCree, thank you.
Schneider, so moved.
And Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Mrs. Denny?
Kind of a continuation on the theme. I've noticed over the last couple of years that there's been a move more to take what had been school year trips and move them into the summertime and make them longer. When I was at school every other year, we did an England trip every other year. Mr. Riffle took us to England the one year, and then the next year it would be the language trips. And a week is really not enough time to truly enjoy all these cultures, so it is wonderful to see these, and I hope that more students can participate in them. The concern, of course, is the cost. $4,000 per student is a very high cost, and something that probably a lot of students will not be able to afford. So it'd be interesting, and I'm really just talking out loud here because these types of trips are so important. I mean, I bet the kids going on this know the difference between an adverb and an adjective. So, but to be able to go there and go into England and study all that, it would be good if we could figure out ways to make it more reasonable. And if that's not our role, to help the students figure that out, to form a mechanism so that it's something that can be available to all students, because going into these countries and having these experiences is really important for our students. So I support this entirely.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Any other discussion? Yes, Dr. Kennedy.
I just want to let Mrs. Denny know that that's an ongoing conversation that we have every time one of these trips comes up at a curriculum committee meeting, is that the cost versus the fairness that certain students will be able to afford to go and certain students won't, and it's something that we juggle all the time. So it is a constant, conversation, and we, talk about everything from trying to get, like this trip is trying to get more schools involved with us, because the more schools are involved, the more power we have to say what goes on in this trip, but also it's less expensive for each of the students. And, anybody out there that has any fundraising ideas for our students, we're more than happy to take your money and to help as many kids as we can to go on these field trips. But it's always in the forefront of the conversation, the fairness of being able to afford these trips.
Thank you. Any other discussion for 5.1? Okay, hearing none, this is a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Human Resources. 6.1, request to approve Abraham Moore as the principal of Spring Ridge Elementary. 6.2, request to approve Joshua Burkhart as an assistant principal of Wilson High School. 6.3, request to approve an additional 50 hours per week district-wide for kindergarten aid support. Looking for a motion to approve Human Resource items 6.1 through 6.3.
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Hart, thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Hart.
I know we talked in the HR committee last week about the 50 hours for kindergarten aides. I still just want to say I don't think that's going to be enough, and I just hope that we're able to be swift in decision-making, that if it's not enough, that we can make that decision sooner than later, because there are a lot of students that need help, teachers that need that support, and so I just think we're going to need more. So, That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. And to that point, I think the conversation around the 50 hours per week, I really appreciated the fact that we didn't just say as a blanket statement, each of the elementary schools gets 10 hours. It's based on the need at each school. So there may be classrooms that need their kindergarten aide to stay longer for the entire school day, when the classroom next door doesn't have that need based on the composition of the students that year. So I think that is a really good point too. The equity piece of it is who needs the extra hours, and if there are classrooms that don't require that, then they don't require that. So, but to your point, if it's more, I think this is a good starting point. Yes, Dr. Trickett.
So just to add on, today, just this afternoon, upon a team review of the spreadsheet that was created by our HR team, an email was sent out to our principals with a deadline of tomorrow by end of day to update. And currently, looking at the spreadsheet and the allocation, certain classrooms are currently proposed to receive 0 additional hours, which is freeing up hours then to reallocate into other areas of higher need. So as we stand today, it definitely looks as though the distribution is being based on reported needs. And to Mr. Hart's point, if there is a need and if we're seeing that 50 hours isn't allocating it, of course, there's a commitment from our team to come back to the board and make sure that we're recommending what we need. We do have some classrooms that are experiencing some challenges that do require additional people in the room to meet the needs of kids. And sometimes extra hours is helpful, other times it's another person. And distributing those hours out throughout a 7.5-hour school day isn't always the solution. I do also want to state that this is a short-term solution based on advocacy of our teachers and our team, but we're also working to look at some of the readiness levels of our earliest learners, pre-K, K1, to try to formulate longer-term solutions, programmatic shifts perhaps, to ensure that we're teaching the skills that are necessary for kids to be successful in school. This has been a trend, as the board knows, and the community is aware of the last few years, and it's one that we need to respond to. Thankfully, this year, our overall kindergarten enrollment is lower than projected and lower than typical, which has kept our class sizes at a nice level in all 5 of our schools. But it's not lost on us at all, Mr. Hart, that if we feel that the 50 hours is not appropriate amount, we will come back and recommend increases as needed. And if I could, just while my microphone's turned on, I'm sorry. Abraham and Josh, again, just want to reiterate Guadalupe, Mrs. Casper's comments. Both of the individuals here before the board this evening went through 3 rounds of interviews, a lengthy process involving tasks, analysis of a variety of different conversations, comprehensive reference calls, because we wanted to make sure that we were making the best recommendation for our kids, for our teachers, and for this great community. Both, again, individuals live locally here in the Berks County. Both have experience teaching. Josh in secondary mathematics, Abraham in elementary, 4th grade, I believe. And recently and currently is serving as an administrator over in the Governor Mifflin School District. Josh is currently serving as a high school assistant principal at the Central Dauphin School District. So again, just wanted to, while my mic was still hot, welcome officially and congratulate both of you on your recommendation this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Any other discussion for human resources?
Dr. Trickett, can you talk a little bit more, because I was struggling today just about, and I'm not talking about special needs, IEPs, children with disabilities. There was some concerning, just the state of education. It was pretty frightening. That I remember when my kids went through preschool, that they weren't allowed in a preschool program unless they were potty trained. So, I mean, some of the things that we're doing now in kindergarten for the additional aides are because we have students potentially entering, and we talk about this all the time, that we have a gap, and it's starting in kindergarten already, where children are not, they don't know their letters, and then there's some kids, as it was mentioned, that are reading on a second grade reading level. There's kids that are not potty trained in kindergarten, next to kids that, when we all grew up, everyone was potty trained in kindergarten, or else you were left back or didn't start. And I know that's not an option legally, but is there a point that students are just not ready to enter kindergarten? And are we doing a disservice for forcing them to start and then have additional aids? I want to look at this long term, but as opposed to just the short term. And I appreciate that you mentioned that. But I was struggling with is this a parenting thing? Is this a society thing? Is this, we're lowering the bar to get into kindergarten, or do you wait? There's people pushing kids into kindergarten, and then there's parents that are redshirting into kindergarten, which then breeds success in sports, et cetera. So can you give a little bit more insight into this? Because I was struggling with this one on what is really best.
Sure.
And the state of America in general.
Yeah, I don't know if I can explain the state of America. However, my job is to make sure that I'm bringing recommendations to the board that are informed by our staff, by our principals, our supervisors, our teachers, our paras. And I make, there's no secrets about my time being spent in a secondary school, so I rely very heavily on those who have elementary experience. What we're seeing over the years is a gap in readiness and skills. It's skills that, that whether we're prepared or not, we are required by law to educate children. We cannot deny their access into kindergarten or any grade for that matter. And in the past, perhaps, some of the things you were talking about was more of a heavy focus on the academic pieces. And clearly, that's our responsibility as a public education entity. However, we are definitely spending more time and resources on other skills and trying to increase those readiness levels. We're working much more closely with families than we've ever have in the past. Early learning programs such as Pre-K Counts are a significant investment into the readiness of children, but not every child has access to that. Data doesn't always come through that allows us to be as ready as we like to. So what we're seeing is that the work of our teachers is much more complicated and much more challenging today than it was even just 5 years ago. When you look at the changing district, I think there's a lot of things for us to look at and consider. Part of it is resource allocation, but like I said, I think the bigger piece too is programmatically, what are we going to do developmentally to meet these kids where they're at, to get them to where then they need to be? How are we going to move them? In recent conversation, second grade reading level is definitely prevalent in most of our kindergartens. We have some kids on a third or fourth grade reading level in kindergarten. And there are other students who are in number and letter identification. That is the gap that our teachers are challenged with every day. So we have to get our heads together. Experts need to come together on our team and outside to figure out what we're going to do. Preliminarily, we've talked about some ideas, but again, we need to get the people at the table to make recommendations to ensure that every child can grow in a year's time. So those conversations have begun, but we are not in the position yet to make recommendations. One of the challenges we have, candidly, is that we develop our class lists and then school starts. And students come to our school. The mobility and transiency of students is increased in all of our grades. But we're committed to it, we're focused on it, and we're not going to give up until we figure out strategies to best support kids.
Thank you, and I applaud everyone that is on the front lines and looking into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Trickett, may I also add, and part of our conversation in our Human Resources Committee as well, we were talking about, do we still offer the parenting for our families. Yeah, and so I think one of the trends, I mean, I teach in marriage and the family. One of the trends that we're seeing is, close to 50% of all children in the U.S. are now born to a single parent. And just parenting in general is much more exhausting and taxing on parents. And the schools end up sort of bearing the brunt of a lot of what parents can't do. And so, kindergarten being that entry point into school, I think is probably the hardest grade to really juggle because you're dealing with such a disparity in readiness in that grade. So I do really support the kinds of support that we're providing for our aides, and I think we need to keep looking at this as something that long term, what are we going to be doing as a district to support our families and to support our educators at that level. So I agree with Mr. Hart in terms of we're probably going to need to look at this again soon, and maybe these hours aren't enough. But I'm very supportive of the district, giving the blanket hours to all of our kindergarten classrooms. But yeah, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Trickett mentioned, that this is going to have to be an ongoing thing, and we really need to support our families. And sometimes the services that we do provide for parents, sometimes the wrong parents are going to those, the ones who really need it. And we can't control for that, as a district either, in terms of, people's availability, and, the understanding the self-awareness in terms of, what their needs might be. So these are all things that, are very uncertain and that our district doesn't always have a lot of control over.
Just really quickly, as a caveat, I do want to bring to light that some of the things that the board has been very progressive on over the past few years as it relates to early learning. One, multiple conversations which led to providing guidance to class sizes. Those conversations occurred for 3 or 4 years, maybe more, and this board put together some guidelines that we practice and follow today. It's not perfect, but our class sizes here, I would argue, are probably better than most of our peers. And then also pre-K counts as a dedicated focus in the school district, again, added pre-K counts within the last 3 years. And then lastly, the commitment to kindergarten aides. Most of our peers in this region do not have kindergarten aides. So there has been a lot of work and a lot of investment from the board and from the team for our kids, and that's why the second part of this to me is so critically important. We have to look at our practices and look to see how those practices moving forward may need to change to meet the changing needs of kids and families. Human resources is good, and that's an appropriate first response, but I don't think it's the final solution. So.
Dr. Kennedy.
I just want to echo some of the things that have already been said. When I taught kindergarten for 1 year, it was the greatest year ever, because in kindergarten you are the prettiest, nicest, best drawer, best singer in the whole world. It was a great year, except I came from kindergarten after 3 years of 6th grade. So it was very jarring to go from 6th to kindergarten, and I was very nervous about it. And I was right to be nervous, because on my first day of kindergarten, I was talking about building community, and I had the big word, community. This is a big word, kids. No one's going to know this word. And I hear, I know that word. And then another one goes, I know that word too. And I said, no, you don't. And they each whispered in my ears, Shannon and Brian, and did they know the word community? Yes, they did. Could they spell it on their own? Absolutely, on the first day of kindergarten. And then I had a little boy who did not know his first name. And they were all sitting in this, out of the 22 kids, they were all in the same class, and they all had to teach them all at the same time. Thank God for, God bless her heart, Mrs. Pisano, my aide, helped me so much. But then when I got to teach the same group of kindergartners again in second grade, and I'll never forget one of the kids' moms, and she said, is he falling behind? Because I feel like everybody, when he started kindergarten, he knew so much more, and now everybody kind of, and I said, that's what happens. Everybody kind of catches up for the most part. And that's our goal, is to catch up by third grade, because the research says if you are not caught up to your peers in third grade, statistically speaking, you're never going to catch up to your peers. What I think is different now than when I taught kindergarten 25 years ago, is there's a behavior element that is very different, where teachers were, completely equipped. Although it was tricky, we were equipped to differentiate our instruction to meet the developmental needs of each of the children. I think there's a behavior element today in conjunction with what I'm seeing throughout the county, and I've been to a bunch of schools already so far this year. There's a language difference. And I don't mean in English language learning, I think my theory, and this is just a theory, is something happened during COVID and all the kids, they fell in love with their iPad, and they don't hear grown-ups talking. They don't hear stories read to them. They're not even watching Happy Days on TV. They're watching strange videos of people opening things. And they don't have the words. I remember I was just in a kindergarten class last week, and the students didn't know the difference between a jacket and a coat. They had heard coat, they had not heard the word jacket. And they're like, what's a jacket? Like simple tier 1 vocabulary that you would think an average 5-year-old would know. So the problem has always been in the United States is that we do not want to invest in birth to 5. There's 5 years of brain growth. There's 5 years of vocabulary learning. There's 5 years of language learning. We get them way too late by the time they get to us. We're doing a very good job when we get them, but we're never able to, some kids start on step 10, some kids start in the basement. And we haven't figured out how to get those kids who start to catch all the way up for all of the kids. And that's the kind of thing that makes me really nervous. I think one of the things we could think about is transitional kindergarten. When we get those kids to kindergarten and we're like, whoa, we have to educate them. It's our job. They turn 5. We can't say you need another year. I think transitional kindergarten is huge. I think, and I always will say, when we got rid of pre-first, we lost a whole lot when we got rid of pre-first. I understand why, because we went to whole day kindergarten, but that doesn't change the fact that just because you're 6 doesn't mean you're ready to sit in first grade and read and learn and all day. I look at other countries who are doing well, like Finland. They have universal health care and universal free preschool and child care from birth on. It's not a fair comparison because there's not as much diversity in Finland, but even families, wealthy families in Finland, there's no such thing as private schools or private daycares because their public schools and public daycares are so good. Even parents that don't have 2 working family members send their kid off every day in Finland to their early childhood education, birth through 5, because they're so high quality. And until we're ready as a nation to invest in birth to 5, we're always going to have those kiddos at our doorstep in kindergarten that start at 2 completely different places, unfair different places. So there's a lot of stuff kind of coming to a head now, and I'm so glad as a district that we're going to take this on because our students and our teachers need us to.
I just want to thank everyone for the open conversation, because if we don't talk about this, there's probably a high percentage of folks in this district that are doing all the right things, getting their kids, that gap, and it's not even on their radar. So I appreciate everyone caring about this, and again, thank you.
Thank you for the discussion. Any other discussion for human resource items? Okay. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Okay, well, officially, congratulations and welcome, Mr. Moore and Mr. Burkhart. On to student services. 7.1, request permission to renew a contract with Conrad Weiser Decision School for one special education student for the 2025-26 school year, pending solicitor review and approval. 7.2, request approval of a resolution approving and adopting a student discipline waiver and consent agreement dated October 1st, 2025. 7.3, request permission to renew a tuition agreement with CHOR, Children's Home of Reading, for the 2025-26 school year, pending solicitor review and approval. 7.4, request approval of a service agreement with a Cottage 7 Education for the 2025-26 school year, pending solicitor review and approval. And 7.5, request permission to renew a contract with New Story for special education students for 2025-26 school year services beginning 8/1/25 and ending 7/31/26, pending solicitor review and approval. Looking for a motion for student service items 7.1 through 7.5.
Denny?
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Technology and Media, 8.1, request approval to contract with the TWG Security to relocate 3 security cameras at Southern Middle School due to the renovation project for a total cost of $1,837. 8.2, request approval to contract with TWG Security to install door access control on 6 additional doors throughout the district and additional mobile licenses for a total cost of $13,431.91 using capital funds. And 8.3, request approval to renew the contract with Lincoln Intermediate Unit IU, the IU-12, for E-rate consulting services for the E-rate fiscal year 2026. Final cost is dependent on the final number of E-rate submissions and final reimbursement amount. Looking for a motion to approve technology items 8.1 through 8.3. Mr. McCree first. Mr. Case, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 9.1, request approval for an order of court armor roll floor covering from Hilliard for the high school gymnasium at a cost of $9,770.59. And 9.2, request approval for the installation of new flooring by About All Floors in the former high school athletic trainer's room at a cost of $3,170.91. Looking for motion to approve operations items 9.1 and 9.2.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Denny?
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 10.1, request to approve the payment of bills as presented. Looking for a motion for 10.1. Mr. McCree,
McCray.
thank you. Mr. McCray, second. Sorry, he beat you. Any discussion? Okay, Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Abstain.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstain.
Also under Finance, 10.3, request to approve the financial reports as attached. 10.4, request approval of the resolution in support of the timely passing of the state budget. And 10.5, request approval of the budget transfers dated July 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2025 as attached. Looking for a motion to approve finance items 10.3 through 10.5.
McCray?
Mr. McCray, thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. McCree? And I believe, Mrs. Denny, we have a reading of the resolution. Is that correct?
Yes, I will read the resolution. It is also attached, but just before I do that, I discussed it before, but I'm just going to give a brief budget history for anyone who missed it last time. The original budget proposal came out in February when the governor put forth his proposal. Then in June, the House put forth its proposal. In August, the Senate put forth its proposal. And at that point, they were about $3 billion apart from each other and about $5 billion apart from the governor's. That's with a B, billion with a B. There was some hope that it was going to get resolved in September when the governor approved the SEPTA plan, but we are now into the middle of October, and there is really nothing on the horizon indicating that the budget is going to get passed anytime soon. The lack of a budget is having very disproportionate impact depending on the school district. Wilson is fortunate that it is currently having a lesser impact on us, but if something is not done soon, it will impact every single school in the district or in the state. It's already impacting some, but we are so far past where we should have a budget. So the resolution that we are proposing today, which is one that has been proposed to all of the districts, reads, whereas the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania requires the enactment of a balanced budget to ensure the funding of essential public services, including public education, and whereas delays in passing a state budget in a timely manner create significant and unnecessary hardships for public schools across the Commonwealth, and whereas the absence of a timely state funding has jeopardized the ability of school districts to hire new staff, meet payroll obligations, sustain academic programs, and provide critical student services, and responsibly plan for the future. And whereas forcing school districts to rely on borrowing needed funds or depleting reserves to cover operational cost increases, expenses for local taxpayers, and diverts resources away from students. And whereas without a timely and predictable state budget, school districts face uncertainty that limits their ability to plan effectively, retain staff, and provide essential services and resources to students and their families. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Wilson Board of School Directors respectfully urges the governor and members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly to work together toward the immediate adoption of a comprehensive, fair, and sustainable state budget that appropriately funds public education. And be it finally resolved that the board remains committed to keeping the community informed of the challenges created by the budget delay and to continuing advocacy with state officials for timely and reliable funding to ensure the stability of our schools and the success of students.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion for finance, whether related to the resolution or the budgeted items? Dr. Kennedy?
I do feel that as our first public participant spoke about, that it is making the general public nervous, that when we do not have federal guidance and we do not have a state budget, that it could adversely affect our most at-risk populations, especially our students with special needs. And I love that we're being We're advocating for our students through this resolution. I hope we continue to advocate for our students. And I think I do think we should do more advocating for our students. And I hope that we do reassure our parents, especially those parents who have students with special needs, that no matter what happens with the federal government and their lack of anything, we will continue to do what is right by your students, regardless of what's going on up there, because it's the right thing to do, not just because it's the mandated thing to do.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. So in relation to the state budget, Dr. Trickett, I wonder, are we able to speak to that, the impact on our district now, or the potential impacts should it continue to move forward?
Sure. Ms. Schlossman could probably provide a better financial outlook, but I will state that the Wilson School District, each district across the Commonwealth has a different impact financially due to the impasse and approval of the budget. Districts range in their proportionate funding from the state and the federal government, both of which is currently being held up. And the Wilson School District receives roughly 75% of our revenue in our budget from more local sources. However, that doesn't mean that there's not an impact. As discussed, that revenue typically comes in and can be used and invested in different ways. I will share that some of our neighboring organizations, including the IUs across the Commonwealth, are in the position where they're having to secure short-term debt. So I don't know if that is a thorough enough explanation. Ms. Schlossman obviously could speak in great detail to how we are as an organization. But our conversations as far as the leadership team is we're in an okay position. We're not in jeopardy of impacting staffing or meeting payroll. But there are impacts. It's hard to plan to the future with the uncertainty that this cycle creates for organizations like ours. And we are in the process now of planning for next year's budget without having received revenue for this year. So it just creates uncertainty for all of us.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Roll call for 10.3 through 10.5.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Transportation, 11.1, request approval for the bus routes for the 2025-26 school year as attached. And 11.2, request approval of a revenue ride share contract with Cocalico School District for the transportation of a Cocalico student to and from Hogan Learning Academy in Fleetwood at a rate of $125 per school day for the 2025-26 school year based on the actual number of days transported. I'm looking for a motion to approve transportation's items 11.1 and 11.2.
So moved, Case.
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under miscellaneous, our enrollment report as of October 17th, 2025, we have 6,336 students, which is a decrease of 4 from the previous report on September 15th. This evening, we do have public participation on a non-agenda item. Diane Shotko. And topic is special education.
Good evening, School Board. Thank you for allowing me the time to ask my question. Keeping on the theme for this evening, amidst the Commonwealth budget impasse as well as the chaos happening at the federal level, news of the elimination of the staff of the Federal Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services has brought further unease to parents of IEP students such as my family. I am concerned that with no federal oversight, there is a risk of reverting back to the pre-IDEA schooling within the district and the education at large. My question is, has the board been in contact with officials at the state level regarding special education? And what assurances can you make to ensure that special education students are not denied FAPE here at Wilson?
Thank you. So I think this evening, in addition to like the state funding resolution that we all have approved to send on to our elected representatives, I think there is definitely an aspect of, as elected officials ourselves, we are in communication with our locally elected officials. Some of them are on the same side of the issue as we are advocating for, and others are not. So that is definitely something that we, as individuals, contact our local representatives and receive varied responses depending on who we are in the jurisdiction of as individuals. But I think when we're speaking to the Wilson School District itself and how we are going to handle the fact that we no longer have the federal special education mandates. Well, we have the mandates, oversight. I think that is more locally controlled our district. I think that the best person to speak to that would be Dr. Hoffert. Do you agree? Dr. Hoffert, on where as a district we are going to commit to continue all of the mandates, regardless of the oversight that no longer exists. I think the common theme here, though, is the funding, because we rely on both state and federal funding, which now may be in jeopardy. So just from our own district standpoint.
So the question is about the funding or the oversight, or both?
Can you speak to
I'll try
both?
hit it all.
Okay.
I'll try to hit it all. So I think it's important to understand that, while IDEA is the federal law, the Pennsylvania School Code through chapters 14, 15, 16 are really the controlling law that we follow. A lot of the oversight that happens from the federal government is on the Pennsylvania Department of Education and not necessarily on the local school districts. So, we are still beholden to both IDEA, and there's no law that's been repealed. So that's still the law of the land. PA Code Chapter 14 still guides all of our special education programming and the regulations around the services that we provide to students, and none of that has changed either. So, from a regulatory aspect, the Pennsylvania Department of Education is still in charge of overseeing what we do as a school district, and all those functions are still operating. So that part of kind of our responsibility hasn't changed. As far as the funding goes, if you look at the percentages of funding that the district receives specific to special education, there is a pot of money that we receive through IDEA funds, but typically that's actually a retroactive funding instrument. So we receive those funds based on last year's budget and some calculations that happened. So those funds that we're receiving right now are based on last year's budget, and we're still receiving those. So the impact of a budget change through IDEA probably wouldn't affect us until later on in the year. We also, if you look at kind of the overall percentage of our budget that represents, it's very small compared to local dollars and even state dollars. So as a percentage of our overall budget, I would not want to throw out an actual number just because I know Christine would correct me as soon as I went and sat down. But I think just overall, if you look at the district's budget, we're 75 to 78% local funds at this point, and then the federal funding is kind of a small portion of that for our district. For other districts, it's different, but for our district, it is a small portion.
If I could just add on as well, I think, in regards to FAPE and the commitment from the Wilson School District, could you just reinforce our commitment to
Yeah. Right. In addition to federal law, IDEA, PA School Code, Chapter 14, we also have board policy that outlines what our responsibilities are to our families and to our students. And, our view of that responsibility has not changed, regardless of what oversight is in place or what budget impasse is happening right now.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffert. So I think the theme there is that our district is in a very fortunate position because we are impacted a lot less than other districts, even in our neighboring school districts in our county. Because we do have such a local revenue source that things may be, unpredictable from the federal government, and right now we just don't have a state budget, so that's unpredictable, but other school districts in our area will definitely be impacted sooner and with more drastic consequences. So the Wilson School District is okay at the moment, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be advocating for the other children in our local community, which I look at as our county, our school that's 5 minutes down the road. They are going to be impacted more than we are, and we should still, as our elected official duties, if we can contact whoever we can contact, like our resolution, we're passing that on to try and help in their cause as well. So thank you for your comments.
Do you want me to add anything?
Yes, well, sure.
Yeah, I think there's like a misperception that whatever side of the aisle you're on, I think before this administration came back in, there's less than 5,000 employees that work with the Federal Department of Education. It's not a big department. It does oversee a significant amount of funds, but most of what is the day-to-day operation is being handled, our district is in contact with PDE and the state on a, 25 times a day, probably 100 times a day. So the federal government, really Department of Education, and I'm probably simplifying this to my own thought pattern here, but there's the special education part that does do a significant amount of overseeing in the sense that they're setting guidelines, they're sending out information to the states so the states stay consistent. The other half is actually auditing monies that are given like to bigger districts that are suburban or urban districts that are getting significant funds from the federal government. Reading School District is constantly being in communication with auditors who are looking at their what we call title funds that are allocated to certain expenditures that need to come. That they do go to the state and then go to those districts, but that's what those people do. So what, to some extent, we're doing is we're kind of firing the people that are auditing all of this and making sure it's spent appropriately. It's not there's other departments in the federal government that are big. This is not, at least on people-wise, an enormous department. It never has been, but I think there's a misperception about what that department does and what I think people see things happen and they think it's being done by the federal government, and in reality, it's something that's pots of money are going down to the state, and the state has a process to then send that money to the school districts. But yeah, there are other school districts because of the federal or because of the state situation need to borrow money right now, and that's happening throughout the state and locally. So they'll be going out to borrow temporary money because they don't have the state funds yet.
I think it's also important to remember that just back in February of '23, our state funding formula was declared unconstitutional. So in terms of the disparity in the state, it already existed. So even though we're in a good situation, it's important to remember that we have one of the most disparate funding formulas in the country. And we need to recognize that just because we're doing okay, we can't really view districts completely in isolation. We are a factor in all of it as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Denny?
I really appreciate all the comments tonight. And I think the concerns that are being expressed is something that's being felt by everybody, including all of us, because the biggest impact that you're seeing with these changes at both the federal and the state level is chaos and confusion, because nobody knows what's going to happen. And regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, the destruction of a federal agency without a mechanism to transfer those responsibilities leaves everybody not knowing what's going to happen. And that's kind of where we are. The goal supposedly was to return stuff to the states, only there's been no process to do that. And our state isn't functioning because we don't have a budget. So it's kind of a perfect storm. And so I would really encourage everybody here to contact your state and federal legislators and tell them what you think about what is happening. Because the bottom line is, as we talked about in some other areas today, we're dealing with a student population that is dealing with a lot more issues than we had 10, 20, 30 years ago. Our nearly 50% of our students receive free or reduced lunch. We see an increased poverty rate in a number of our schools. We have an increased number of English language learners. So we have children coming in with greater and greater issues requiring more needs, and our governments are in chaos and not providing us the resources we need. And the bottom line is all of us as taxpayers are going to bear that burden. And my child or your child may not see the direct impact, but our community's children are all going to feel it. And no matter where you are on the political spectrum, our children should not be paying the price for adults' inability to sit down as adults and negotiate things that benefit everybody. And that's really where we are. The Democrats and the Republicans are not communicating at the state level. They are not communicating at the federal level. And we're all suffering because of it. So use your right to vote. November is an election day. Call your legislators and tell them to get us a state budget and to get us federal money.
Well said. Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Any other discussion from the board or other business? Okay, hearing none. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Schneider, so moved.
Meeting adjourned.